Hi, I'm Ashley Walton with the Manager Vault,
And I'm Sean McGinnis. Welcome.
and we're back for another podcast episode. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Good to see you.
Today,
Sorry.
yeah, it's
Good to
so good
see
to
you.
see you too. This is
We
fun.
skipped we
Well,
skipped last week because you were feeling a little bit under the weather and I missed it. So I'm glad we're
I
able to chat
know
again.
we skipped, and today we're using a new video recording tool, so
Yeah.
we're learning as we go. Cool. Well, something that I think we talked about discussing today is ownership, delegating, and the hidden cost of being helpful.
I love it.
So, yeah, I want to talk maybe first about this concept of the hidden cost of being helpful. Like, what does that mean to you, Sean?
I don't know. What does it mean to you? I'm super interested in hearing your take on it.
Yeah, so I detail this in one of our newsletters, and I'll share it in a little bit more detail here. I can look back on times in my leadership career, very specific points where I thought I was being helpful. I was just taking on a ton of work. I felt like I was shielding my direct reports from work that they didn't want to do. I was doing a lot of the not fun work that I didn't think my direct reports would love doing. And I was hoarding tasks thinking I was being helpful. And I think the hidden cost of being helpful, there's a lot, but I was literally holding back my team members from growth. And I didn't realize it or see it in that way. And as soon as I told my team, hey, I've been scared to delegate these things to you because I'm worried you're not going to like it. I'm worried it's going to take you more time. I'm worried about all these things. They stepped up and said, no, we got this. We're excited to take on this stuff. The stuff that you hate because you've been doing so long as a VP, we've never done before as directors, and we're excited to do it. And it totally shifted my mindset and made me realize I was being such a bad manager in that regard.
Yeah, it's that's not the thing that I see most often. The thing that I see most often for people who are either bad at delegating or like wish they could do more of it is just I think fear of letting go and really trusting that the next level or whoever they're delegating this process to can really own it in a way that they would approve of or that there's this mindset of, I know exactly how to do this, and therefore I'm just going to do it. It's faster for me to do it. I know the quality is going to be the way I want it to be done. And there is this, it's very similar in kinds of like how you're training someone to pick up on new things. It's just faster and it's easier, and I know exactly what I'm looking for. And more often than not, I've said this a number of times, thousands of times in my career. It is more work to bring on someone and train them, but the whole point of doing that typically is so that you can elevate and you can focus on either the more important stuff, the more strategic things, the things that will help you elevate your career. I've often joked that one of your main roles as a manager is to manage yourself out of a job. And that means you're delegating, pushing so much stuff that used to be at your level down in the organization that frees you up to become like the next level and be just much more strategic in your thinking and apply yourself to higher value tasks and duties. Do you find that to be true or?
Yes, and I was literally thinking about that as you were talking because I remember you saying that to me. Like, your job as a leader is to make yourself redundant. And I think as a leader, the first time you hear that, it's scary because you
Yeah.
think, well, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
But truly, that's how you continue to expand your leadership capabilities, expand what's under your purview, grow as a leader, and take on additional things that you haven't before. Like you touched on, Sean, it's really trying to make yourself redundant. And another thing, I mean, there's two other things that stand out that you told me too. You said, always be thinking about redundancy planning. So think about if you were to leave the company tomorrow, who would replace you, and have redundancy planning for everyone on your team. Identify those points that you're like, wow, if this person leaves, we're screwed,
Yeah.
because those really shouldn't exist. And that's a problem. And
Yeah.
the other thing you said to me that helped me a lot was, hey, the people who report to you are not going to do the tasks as well as you, and that shouldn't and can't be your expectation. You should be handing things off with the expectation of somebody can do it 70% to 80% as well as you.
Yeah. I think there's something to that. I think the other thing I see a lot is like they're not going to do it exactly the way I would do it. And the reality is there's numerous ways to get any individual task done. So unless the lower you are in the organization, the more you need it to be exactly done just this way, right? If you're building a bed frame, it has to be done exactly the way you've got plans. It needs to be, you need to teach them how to use the router correctly and how to drill the pilot holes correctly and all these little things that need to get done exactly the way you want them, or the product doesn't turn out the way you want it to. But in a corporate white collar setting, there's plenty of other duties and responsibilities that can be done 35 different ways. And this mindset that I see a lot that creates this hoarding instinct is like, no, I know how to do it. And it is a lack of trust. So I'm curious, like, how do you overcome that instinct? Because I've seen it in almost everyone I've ever worked with. The instinct to be like, oh my gosh, I can't trust it. Right.
I mean, I think it gets easier with practice. Like, I think when you start delegating things that are scary, that means you're doing your job. And I think as you do it and your eyes are opened up to the fact that, like, truly, I don't mean this in like a mean way, but none of us are special, including me. Like, we can teach other people how to do our jobs, and
Sure.
most skills are very teachable. And something that I always keep in the back of mind too, and I've said this to other high level, C-level leaders who struggle with this concept, but I talk to leaders who were talking to me about, oh yeah, I've like coached other people on the team to do it exactly as I want them to do it. And I said, but what if you actually tell them your goal and the problem that you're trying to solve, and that person on your team might actually come up with a better idea to do it than you've been doing it,
Yep.
because they have a fresh take and they have the bandwidth to be thinking about it. And so that really opened up my eyes, and now that's my mindset going into it. When I delegate something, I think, cool, this person is going to potentially make this way better than how I could do this on my own. And that's almost always the case if you're coaching people properly.
How do you think about what gets delegated? Like, how do you make that decision?
That's a really good question. I mean, so I'm sitting in a C-level role. So there's a lot of stuff that sits with me, and I am constantly trying to think about, what do I not need to own? What can I offload? And I look for a few different things. So one, where's there like excitement of somebody to own something that I'm currently owning? Because honestly, like excitement and commitment to own it goes a really long way. And
Sure.
if you have that, that compounds really, really quickly. If somebody's like eager to learn, excited to do it, that's big.
Yeah.
And then two, as people come to me with questions of where I've become like the single point of failure decision maker, instead of answering the question, I almost always say, well, what do you think? Or what do you think I'm going to say if I've worked with them for a long time?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
because you're giving the person the opportunity to think it through first, they've probably already thought about it and they probably already have an answer that's pretty close. They're just scared of functioning without you. And so the more that you can build that confidence and capability, and or coach them if their answer's like totally off or they don't have the context they need, but that helps me build confidence, right? It's like making sure I'm asking the question to enable people to start thinking about owning things before I'm actually asking them to own it.
Yeah. I love it. Can tell you what kind of rings true for me is as you know, I spend a lot of time thinking about the organization and the org chart. And I remember Jason one time was like, I see what you're doing all day, and you're playing chess with people, and in some regards, that's kind of a true statement, right? I'm always looking around for how we can be more strategic, who can grow into new roles, and that maybe they hadn't even dreamed of before, and try and develop them or tap them into that. But in thinking about the org structure, the thing that I catch myself saying, I'm thinking of a very specific example where a guy was an individual contributor and reported to me, and I kept telling him, like, this is your call. Like, this is literally in your seat description. I'm telling you what I think, but this is your decision. So I'm going to leave it to you to decide, And so I
Yeah.
think that role clarity is oftentimes missing as you go about, running as fast as possible to grow an organization. You tend to just, I don't want to say hire willy-nilly, but like that there's no really thought that gets applied to, oh, well, this person does this, but 9 months later, it might make more sense for someone else in the organization to own that. And you didn't really sit back and have a conversation with both of them and formally transfer that responsibility from person A to person B. And that act is so valuable so that everyone is incredibly clear about what they're supposed to be doing for the org, what is in their scope of control, what is outside of that. But, you know, just clearly communicating to everyone, this is your seat. Here's the definition. Here's what you're accountable for. And then measuring that regularly, obviously, and all those other things that go along with it. But the four corners of that document that says, here's your seat definition, in many ways, control, that's step A. And then what you talked about was like, really, this is stuff that belongs with me, but I'm going to actually push it down to you. Right. So I think they're kind of related exercises. And I do think there's a ton of value in kind of taking things that either you're not good at or you don't like to do. And it's, maybe you do it at a C level, but it's still in your seat. And then pushing that down as a developmental exercise. You're still accountable for making sure it gets done correctly to the rest of the organization, but you're going to push the work, down a layer, and then you need to review the work product, right? I mean, that's a little more of a delegation than just a seat definition question, but it seems highly related to me.
I love that. I'm so glad you brought up like job role definition and just saying it out loud, because I do think that's a piece that's skipped a lot. And therefore, you as a leader are maybe making assumptions that somebody knows they're ultimately owning or accountable to something, but they're not clear. And so they're coming to you for okays. And yeah, I think a helpful question to you could be, why are you coming to me with this? Like, help me understand what you're not sure about. Is it because you're missing context? Is it because you feel like you need to run it up the flagpole for some reason? Or is it because you're unclear who owns it? And I actually had something happen just in the last week where we had a very unclear ownership of who was the final decision maker on something. And so we created this triangle where I was saying something and another C level was saying something and another leader was saying something. And I had to like level set with the leadership team of, okay, here's my understanding of who the final decision maker is. Does that align with all of you? And that was a little bit different from what you're describing, but falling into the same like spinning your wheels and not getting stuff done because we're unclear who is owning the thing.
Yeah, and I think the one trap my mind goes right to, not based on that conversation, but I'm just thinking about all the delegation conversations I've had. The thing to be careful of is to push just the grunt work down, right? You want it to be a developmental exercise, and to your point that you made earlier, something that they might really excel in. It's quite easy to be like, this is crap work that I don't want to touch, and I'm just going to push all that down. I'm going to hold on to the stuff that's really cool and sexy, and that I really love doing, and that I know I'm great at, and that energizes me. Whatever the reason is, you want to be careful about balancing those things. And the other thing is, I've seen is it's very common to only delegate to your top performers, right? Those are great stretch assignments that can really help them push their boundaries and learn new skills and ready them for the next role in their career. But it's the natural place to go. But that means you're probably overburdening them, and you need to watch for stress points and what they're taking on, because oftentimes those people that are top performers, present company included, tend to want more and more work. And eventually I start to be really careful about guarding their time, right? There's only so many hours in the day, and I don't want people, bringing it home from work and being super stressed and, having it be a 24/7 responsibility. You need to have some balance in your life. And I think it's important to really think about, just deliberately, about what you're pushing down and then who you're giving it to.
I love that. And something else building on that you and I have talked about is making sure you're delegating decisions, not just tasks. And there's a big difference in that. And I, to your point, grunt work, or what we think about as the things that are easy to delegate, are usually task oriented. And the things that actually free up more cognitive load for leaders and that actually help our team like stretch into strategic thinking is delegating decisions. And honestly, I used to be so scared to do that, but it's very low stakes because you're still the final decision maker. If you're couching it to the person as like, great, I want you to own this, go do the research, put together a plan for me, and then we're going to talk about it together and you're going to describe your decision making. You can still disagree or coach them on making another decision. But the fact that they're doing that legwork on their own is a big deal. And one of the first things I think I was comfortable delegating, because it's so when you're especially like a manager, a director, a VP, you tend to get further and further from like operations, tools, project management
Sure.
stuff.
Yeah.
And so the easy things that I delegated at first that are decisions was, what tools should we be using? What tools should we be using for our content governance? What tools should we be using for our project management? Those are like big impact decisions to make, and getting to delegate that to somebody who's closer to the work is really impactful. And those have been like some of the best things I've delegated over the years, and learning a lot and saving you so much time as a leader.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, that's kind of our cast about delegation, right? Is there anything else you wanted to get into there on that on the topic of delegation for now? I mean, we could talk about this for 2 hours, and we're trying to deliberately keep these conversations to a sizable, something that can be consumed in a quick viewing. But
I think the last
anything
thing
else
I'll
jump out?
say is that I think delegating builds such a strong connection with your direct report, and I think that sometimes we don't think about it that way. But Sean, like, I think back to times when you delegated things to me that really surprised me, and those were like some of my biggest growth points as a leader that I look back on now, and I'm like, wow, I'm so grateful Sean trusted me with that, and I'm so grateful he delegated that to me. Like, for example, you had brought me in to teach a feedback workshop with you, and it was like an all-day feedback workshop, and it was for the company as a whole, which, as a content director at the time, I had never done anything like that. So it was a really big deal for me, and I was so honored that you trusted me. And you and we had always had a good relationship, but I feel like our relationship and connection grew out of that even. And you did that a few other times too, with like big presentations where I would have thought you would be the one to own it. I didn't see that as my strength. I was like, I'm a writer, I'm a content person. I'm not somebody who gets up and speaks in front of people. And you pushed me to be the person presenting information a lot, and it scared the crap out of me, and was singularly one of the most useful things that you could have done for me in my career at that point. Like, I look back with so much gratitude towards you, because now I speak in front of groups of people all the time. That is my job as CMO over, a company with thousands of employees. And now it's like breathing to me. It comes so naturally. But it never would have happened if you hadn't pushed me and
Well, you
delegated
used
that to
a
me.
key word there that I keep thinking about when it comes to delegation. That's trust, right? Like it develops a two-way trust pipeline that is really strong. Like you may not trust that employee that you're delegating the work to initially, but as you work through that project together or that deliverable or whatever it might be, like you can help shape, to your point, you said this earlier, you can shape the way that they're delivering it or shape the outcome by questioning them, and asking them to, well, walk me through your logic here. How did you come to this decision? What is the math that you're applying that gets to this number for this type of exercise? And as you they start to learn how you consume things, but you also teach them the way that you think. And that becomes a two-way trust factor that they start to trust you more because you're willing to invest in them. And I just I see it as an unfettered good. Like, you know how I feel about management. I view it as my responsibility to develop everyone who reports to me in some way so that they're ready to take the next step in their career. And I think this is a big part of it. It's not the only part, but it's a part of what makes for a good manager, is to really think strategically about what can I feed? It's the care and feeding of your team in some ways, right? And what can I push down that is high value that will stretch their capabilities, teach them something new, and make them ready for that next step. And I watched you grow from a manager when I met you to a director under me and VP in that org and now CMO, and it's been a real point of pleasure and pride to be able to watch you do it. But I want to do it 100 times. That's kind of in some respects why we're doing the manager vault, is to try and share that same knowledge to all managers, but also maybe some individual contributors that want to learn to become managers and grow their career. So yeah, this was a great conversation, and it's such an important thing. And I see people neglect it all the time because they just think to themselves like, if I'm not super busy, I'm not valuable to the organization. I think that's another kind of just very tactical way of thinking about, if my calendar's not full, if I'm not constantly doing something, if I'm not busy, busy, busy all the time, then my either self-perception drops in some way, or I'm worried that someone else around me is going to look and just be like, "Whoa, you're not worthy of what we're paying you," or when in fact it's the exact opposite. You need the time to think strategically about how to solve the bigger problems in the organization, and by pushing stuff down, it frees you up to do that genuinely.
Yeah, that's so well said. I love that. Well, thanks, Sean. Always a pleasure. And thanks,
Yeah, it's
everyone,
good to
for
see you.
joining us. It's so good to see you. Sign up for our newsletter if you haven't subscribed yet. The Manager Vault, and we're posting this podcast usually on a weekly basis. I was sick last week, so we skipped one, but glad you're
Yeah.
here. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, and again, if you have any topical ideas, you want to just let us know in the comments or send us an email. We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks,
Bye.
Ashley. Good to see you. Bye bye.